about myself. So I can be fully transparent. I ended up also just really getting very ill and sick because I was constantly giving and not
replenishing.
Yes. So I was like, okay, I had to hit rock bottom or crash when it came to my health to wake up. And so
hey guys, welcome to Little Black Book, another one. I am your favorite dating and relationship coach. Today we're talking about Tia and Cory Hadrict's marriage. This is part 2, and I believe that we've solved a little bit of the issue as to potentially why they actually divorced. Look, many times in relationships there are answers that are oftentimes are hidden gems, and we need to unearth them. The Bible says that the glory of God is to conceal a matter, but it's a glory of kings to unveil it, in a sense. And so I believe that we can unveil a little bit more about why they actually broke up. I've been studying a lot around about attachment styles, which is the way that we behave and attach to people in relationships. And the attachment style that I believe that Tia is based upon some of the statements that she made in a lot of the different interviews, but specifically this one, she mentioned about being an overgiver, being a people pleaser, being unable to fill her cup, being always in a space where she always felt like she almost had to, quote unquote, earn the love that she has, right? And that is a typical script of somebody who's an anxious attacher in a relationship. Well, what is anxious attachment? Well, anxious attachment simply is people who crave a reassurance and validation. Quote unquote, you often meet them and they seem a little bit clingy. That is the anxious attachment, because they are always in a space of trying to earn people's love. The way they've understood that is by being of service, being somebody who always helps. They are constantly in a place of people pleasing, and what ends up happening is they don't identify with their own needs, nor their own wants, nor their own desires, and they're consistently pouring out and not being poured into because they don't know how to receive, and they're always on the go. Now, this is really intriguing because if you're a fearful avoidant, you need to pay attention to this too, because you're both anxious and avoidant, and I believe this video can help you as well going forward. But I definitely believe we've got some answers in the relationship between Tia and Cory. Well, I mentioned about Tia being obviously an anxious attachment. I believe that Cory is a dismissive avoidant based upon one of the videos here, and I'll actually play it for you guys as well, so you guys can see this. Let me just play this, what he said here.
I'm closed off. I don't trust nobody. Like it takes a while to get into like my space, or just to let you in there. So I'm, like I said, when I said I'm working.
Okay, so if you don't know anything about attachment styles, the dismissive avoidant people, which I'm one of them, and I'm growing to be secure, amen. But the dismissive avoidant attachment style is all about avoiding. It's about dismissing your own emotions and avoiding close-knit attachments because they feel like they're going to be enmeshed and overtaken. They feel like they're going to lose their autonomy. And when that happens, they have to detach and they have to avoid. And so what ends up happening is one of the core wounds of a dismissive person is that they don't trust people because they believe that they'll be abandoned and they feel that their needs won't be met. And so they feel like trusting people is way too difficult. I will be rejected if I open myself up. So you've got the dismissive avoidant who has a core wound of being afraid of rejection and being trustworthy. And you've got the anxious person whose core wound is, I don't feel like I'm enough. And so I have to earn this love. And they also have a fear of abandonment and rejection. And guess what ends up happening? The anxious person starts chasing the avoidant kind of person in a relationship, and they're consistently in a place of pouring out. So before you jump onto Cory and think he's a bad guy, or even jumping on Tia and thinking she's a bad girl, they actually both are playing a role in his relationship and why it's going to cause a downfall. Because eventually Tia's going to get tired of always pouring because the dismissive struggles to pour back in. Why? Because they're getting triggered. And so the anxious person will consistently chase the avoidant person who keeps dismissing and avoiding them and be in a place of pursuit, because it gives them a feeling of feeling special, loved, and cared when they finally capture the dismissive for a time and a season before the dismissive person feels like they're being trapped again and they must flee. So let's talk a little bit about being the anxious attachment. I'm going to play a little bit of clip for you guys. But before I do, please like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification of uploads. We're here to help you guys heal, transform, and grow. At the moment, I would say join my coaching, but I won't lie to you. I'm fully booked for the next 3 months, and I don't know how I'm going to fit a lot of you guys in. So what I will do is I'm going to have to try and get a waiting list for you guys as well, so you can sign up to that as well. In the meantime, look, I like to have a bit of fun. I like to have great conversations. We have a monthly 100 club, I call it, where, you know, we get to have conversations offline with you guys, have a bit of fun, where it's a group thing where we just, you know, chop it up once a month. And my first one is coming up at the beginning of the month, actually, I believe on the 2nd of August. We got that one coming up, so we want to see you guys come through. Okay, call it the 100 Club. Come and join our offline conversation. There's a link in the description as well of this video. And every month we're going to do one. So the next one's on the 6th of September. So if you guys are ready, you want to see some stuff, please make sure you join us on the 2nd of August. You want to have conversations, network, get with new people, have conversations, and this is going to be a great time. There is a fee. It's only $10. I'm not charging much, like, you know, but we want to have a bit of fun for the next 2.5 hours of that. All right, let's get into this video. I don't want to waste much time, like I said, because I want to make sure that I'm keeping this nice and short. And so I want to get this video for you as well. All right, so I want you to pay attention to this. This will kind of explain the anxious attachment a little bit better, and so you guys get a better understanding. Let's go.
Or preoccupied attachment style. Now, really quickly, as a quick reminder, I would say that the parenting or caregiving style that goes with this one is often called an outside-in orientation. And what that really means is that the child, because of the parents' inconsistencies, inability to be, have a good timed response in terms of attunement, because of the parents' anxiety, the child learns to be hypervigilant and to be always focusing first on the caregiver to see what the caregiver needs. And so that creates an outside in, where it's like we're always looking for other people on the outside to then determine what we are supposed to feel on the inside. And so that is the heart of what the style does. And I would say that compulsive caretaking, people pleasing, rotating around others, and at the core, having a deep fear about relationship dynamics and health, and sort of always being overly focused on, are they going to leave me? Are they safe? Is this a good attachment? Can I trust them? That's always being focused on them, on their actions, on how they respond to you. And so it's really hard to feel a sense of security when you're always giving all of that internal security to someone else, because
and I love that explanation that she gives. And I think that's a perfect place to kind of park the bus and get back onto Tia. Because listening to the conversation between herself and the interviewer, she really did speak about several different instances that happened within the relationship. So I want to say first and foremost, I think, like, really breaking it down really, really quickly, the issues that I felt like will probably happen in this relationship as to why the relationship broke down is that there's an anxious avoidant loop, trying to earn the value, over giving from Tia. She doesn't know her needs. She's people pleasing. She's found worth being a mum and a wife, ran out of steam, not being fulfilled, and healing. Her healing made her quote unquote graduate, and the whispers that became loud sounds. What that means in the sense of that, the issues and the problems that she had that were quiet became very, very loud. Okay. So let's start first and foremost. I already explained the anxious avoidant loop and how that becomes a problem in a relationship. You burn out eventually, but I want to tap into something else. Let's tap into trying to earn the value. And I'm going to explain how that becomes a problem within the scope of a relationship and a marriage, like herself and Cory. Listen to this.
Oh, it's because I really want to help people. And I do, of course I do.
Yeah.
But actually, if I thought about the deep root reason, it was because I was trying to figure out my value, and the value I was placing on myself was through how other people valued
That was me.
And so when I moved to New York, I went through my caterpillar butterfly phase where I got to a place where no one knew me. I didn't know anyone myself. I was by myself a lot. Like I was spending full days on my own. Couldn't work. I couldn't distract myself. And I had to sit with myself and be like, who the hell am I? Because I can't be a dietitian anymore.
Yeah, I remember
I don't have my job anymore.
Yeah.
And I have no external hats that I'm wearing. And so I buried myself in cooking for Jay. I was like following around, trying to jump on his bandwagon and trying to jump on his purpose. What I realized was jumping on someone else's purpose, if you don't have it yourself, your energy runs out because you don't have the same fuel, the same desire that's burning inside of you to do it. And so I was running out of fuel, I was running out of energy, and I was running out of any kind of motivation or desire to even continue on every single day because I hadn't figured out what I wanted. And so I do think as we're growing older, it's like you think it's going to be a slow but upward. One, me doing the work to figure out who I am.
Ooh.
And two, which was difficult, and two, to feel like I have value.
I feel like a lot of women.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if a lot of men, kind of
Think about this.
think about that.
Yeah, it's true. No, but it's so true. It's like, I do find.
So the conversation actually flowed in a particular area where they were talking about value and worth, okay? And she attached it to obviously women, but she was also agreeing with the young lady's testimony about discovering her worth and her value. And one of the things you have to understand is that with the anxious attachment style, they actually have a core wound, which is they feel they must earn, okay, their worth. And so whenever they're in love or they're in a relationship, they are always striving to earn. And that puts them in a place where they're consistently trying to attain the love of somebody else, or the affection of somebody else, or the availability, emotional availability of someone else. And simply is because in childhood, right, the parent was inconsistent, the parent was overbearing, the parent was too strict, the parent was harsh in their criticism, they were inconsistent, good today but not good tomorrow, they were neglectful almost with the emotional needs of the child. There's family discord and breakups and drama, which causes the child to feel anxious, right? And we know from Tia's background that her mom and dad were from an army background, militant background, and they were very strict. And so the child learns that the world isn't safe, and they become anxious in that place. Remember, also at the same time, her role and her job was to make people smile and make people laugh. That was her job as a young child, and that becomes very tiring, right? That becomes very difficult when you're always in a space where you're always having to make others laugh, or you're in a place of servitude the whole entire time. That creates the anxiety. And so you can see how that plays a role in that, how that can, and then we can link that to a relationship, that where you are in a relationship, you're going to always be in a space where you're trying to prove your worth to your partner, especially somebody who's emotionally unavailable, or I shouldn't say that, well, let me change that wording. Someone who's obviously not as emotionally open or easygoing when it comes to sharing vulnerability. You're always in a space of trying to attain their affections. I've said this already about Cory, about the way that he's very militant. It's very similar energy to her parents. So it's no wonder that she chose someone like Cory. It's not a mistake. It's a pattern. Can I say that again? It's not a mistake. It's a pattern. And so what ends up happening is you're always in a space of trying to attain that worth and that love. And eventually it gets tiring. You get tired and you don't want to do it no more, right? Eventually you're going to end up burning out, right? Now, you want to another thing is over giving from anxious people, right? Anxious people always tend to overgive, and the reason why they overgive is because what they're trying to do is prove to you that they are worthy of your attention and your affection. Okay, and so they learn from young how to show worth by doing. And so the way that they avoid the fear of abandonment and rejection is to show themselves that they are worthy of your time and energy by being of help. If I do X, Y, and Z, you can't get rid of me because I'm actually important in your life because I do this and that. But it leads to
about myself. So I can be fully transparent. I ended up also just really getting very ill and sick because I was constantly giving and not
replenishing.
Yes. So
pause right there. Why wasn't she getting back? Well, it's going to lead to another point I'm going to make in a second or two, which is that when it comes to anxious people, they don't let you know their needs because they actually begin to identify their needs as yours. They identify their needs through your needs. They completely abandon their needs in order to be important to your life by fulfilling your needs. And so what can end up happening in a relationship like this with her and Cory is that she can be so focused on trying to be important in Cory's life, trying to be that love of his life, trying to be that person who oscillates and vacillates and circles around him and tries to do everything she can for him, and maybe not getting that same thing back. Eventually, you're going to run out. Remember, I gave a video last time. I said, be still and let go. Right? Be still and let God just be God, right? And that whole thing is that a lot of us can't be. That's why the Bible says, pray and be anxious for nothing. Why does it mention anxiousness and not avoidancy? Because we become anxious when we are waiting on something, and we become thinking about the past and the future rather than being present in the moment. And so it can be leading to us to be overgiving. Many of us do this in Christendom too. We overgive in our relationship with God, or even in churches, because we're trying to prove that we're worthy and trying to prove to God that I have worth. And God is like, you already have worth. And the anxious person is doing the exact same thing. They're trying to earn, right, the appreciation, the acknowledgement, and the love. And I believe that probably happened with her and Cory. I'm not saying that Cory didn't love her. I'm not saying Cory didn't care. No, I'm saying that potentially what she needed, she didn't even know. And so she couldn't even let him know because, again, she's identifying her needs with his and constantly serving him and putting him at first and not putting herself first. And she overgave. And eventually when you overgive, eventually it will come back to bite you. Eventually you get tired and you're like, you know what? I can't do this no more. I need a break. Okay. Which leads me to my next point. She don't know her needs. Okay. She don't know her needs. Let me put that in here so you can get it. She doesn't know her needs. Anxious people struggle in the area of their needs. And the reason why they struggle in the area of their needs is because they focus solely on other people. They focus on what other people need from them rather than actually what they need. They can't put themselves first. And so the cup was empty. Of course it's empty because you never gave your needs. Right? Of course, a cup is empty. Let me play another clip for you guys just to prove what she was saying here about a cup being empty and being empty.
And I speak in analogies. And I think for me, when I knew that there was some sort of level of unhappiness is when the cup was completely empty.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I
Like
do.
we do go through life where there is water in the cup and then, you know, you're giving the water, but then that water is being replenished. That water is being replenished, you know, whether that's from other people or whether that's you replenishing yourself.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing any of that. I wasn't replenishing myself and things were just, it was constant. It was like I was in this constant space of everything was being taken. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Like, and then you're so empty that you no longer have anything left that you just.
Now, why would she be empty? Well, two things can happen. Number one, you don't actually say your needs. And number two, you never gave. Number two, the partner also did not try to find out potentially what your needs were or struggle to get a hold of what your actual needs were and thought you were okay. There's a video that was going around about Mary Jane. Gabrielle Union and the guy in the video, whatever, it's a show. And the guy was like, why would I stop you from serving me stop you from loving me? Because she was like, I did all of these things for you. No, you did it for yourself. But in reality, the same thing here with Tia. Like she did all of this to get the reassurance and validation. And eventually she found herself tired because the validation and the reassurance did not come that she needed, number one. Number two, she didn't identify with her actual needs, and so she couldn't get her needs met. And number three, probably more than likely, her partner didn't know what her needs were, so couldn't give her what she actually wanted. But she was willing to find out, mind read, observe, be hyper vigilant, and find out what his actual needs were. And so, unfortunately, he may have been fed for a long time, but she wasn't being fed. And that's why she ended up divorcing from this relationship. That doesn't make it just his fault. It makes it her fault. If you don't know your needs because you're anxious, because you keep putting your needs on other people, you feel emotionally safe when you are doing things for others and not when you regulate yourself because you don't know how to self-regulate or self-soothe, and you put it on other people and other relationships to help you do that. You're going to always cause carnage and you're going to always suffer because your needs are never going to be met. Right? So that's really important, that aspect that she mentioned about that part, right? The next part is being a people pleaser, which again goes back to my original point again about knowing needs and also about the way that we actually operate and the way that we don't actually tell people what we actually want, because people pleasers, okay, are notorious for wanting to serve but don't want to be served back, right? Because they were notorious for serving but not actually orating and making it clear verbally that they actually need their needs being met. So they end up what? People pleasing. They end up doing whatever you need in order to get their needs met. And when they don't get it met, they're going to what? Run out of steam, because eventually it gets tiring. You can't keep serving other people from an empty cup, like she was saying.
What is it that I like? I'm working on no longer being that people, pleaser. And I feel like that is how I got to my lowest. I became such a people pleaser that I lost sight of me. And I'm learning also in therapy that my whole life has been about pleasing people. Like,
let's pause right there. In fact, no, go on.
As a child, it was all about appealing and being criticized, healthy, constructive criticism, but still it's criticism. Stand here, do that, be more funny, do this, and
I can almost guarantee that the same thing that she was that was being done to her as a kid about go here, do that, do this, do that. I'm sure Cory probably had the same energy still. You know what I mean? Because dismissives are like that. We will try to tell you what to do, this, that, because we don't want. Remember, as a dismissive person, you don't want a person clinging to you. So no, I'll be cool if you do this. I'll be cool if you do that. And we saw how she always tried to bring Cory into the TikToks. He went on it. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that, again, needs and wants need to be discussed. But going back to that people pleasing aspect, she mentioned again that she's a people pleaser. And the whole point of that is that you abandon your needs. Okay, you abandon the post of self-identity and self-worth, and you abandon it and say, actually, I'll get my worth from pleasing you. And we notice how she linked it into how also she linked it also into her being a child star, and how she always had to find a place of servitude of trying to make other people happy. But what's going to make her happy? What's going to make her excited? What's going to fill her tank? Right? She didn't have that. Okay. All right. Let's move on again. I'm on point number 6 as to why I think this relationship was going to end. Right. And I think it's worth found in a role. Okay. And I'm starting to really realize that as a man, this is really important for women, that your worth is not just as in you being a wife, or you being the mother of my kids, and not you just being not being the mother of my kids and my wife. You actually have your own identity. God didn't create you to be mine. He created you that we would have. When I say mine, what I mean in the sense of, he didn't create you to be my little pet. He created you to walk alongside me, right? To be a helpmeet. Okay, all right. So I mean, I said meat like it was meat, but helpmate, you know what I mean? So that we can walk along together. Your skills are absolutely quintessential for my growth, and my skills are quintessential for your growth. And so what ends up happening is you found worth in a role. Many of you will find worth as an anxious person, a fearful, avoidant person. You will find your worth in doing things for other people, to the fact you get burnt out. You're the gifter, you are the cook, you are the chef, you are the banker, you're this. You play so many roles, have so many hats on your head. You're the mother, the chef, the banker, the cook. You are the best friend. You are the caretaker. You are the babysitter. Like, you're everything to everybody, but nothing to yourself. Whew. You are everything to everybody, anything to everybody, but nothing to yourself. And that's a problem. So finding self-worth outside of a role is really important. I'm going to play a little clip so you get to see this, because, again, anxious people do this. They find themselves in that space. And hopefully I got the right clip for you guys that will kind of elicit that, what she was saying. I've got a few clips actually in that space. So let me just see.
In because of you working so hard, then that means you're a great mom.
Yeah. Yes, same. If you're doing all the work yourself, you're getting tired doing it, you're exhausting yourself, but that's a sign that you are a great mom.
Yeah. But what I've realized is, you said your spiritual practices, that I literally have a do not disturb sign on my door now. And I'm unapologetic about it. In the morning, I have my spiritual practices, and those are my non-negotiables.
Spending full days on my own, couldn't work, I couldn't distract myself, and I had to sit with myself and be like, who the hell am I? Because I can't be a dietitian anymore.
Yeah, I
don't have my job anymore.
Yeah.
And I have no external hats that I'm wearing, and so I buried myself in cooking for Jay. I was like following around, trying to jump on his bandwagon and trying to jump on his purpose. What I realized was, jumping on someone else's purpose, if you don't have it yourself, your energy runs out, because you don't have the same fuel, the same desire that's burning inside of you to do it.
He's from New York, and he had asked me a question, and he said, who are you if you are not? Who are you if you are not a mother?
Yeah.
Who are you if you are not an actress?
Yeah.
Who are you if you are not these roles that you have been?
These hats that you're putting on, yeah.
I think that perfectly encapsulates it. So, being outside of the role of the mother and the caretaker or the wife, what are you? Who are you? And it's important that everybody finds that, because we're in 2024. You can't stay in that place of just, well, my role is a mother, right? Because a lot of people have more than just wanting to be a mother. They have a lot more to give. And so, unfortunately, that ends up being an issue, for a lot of people, when they realize, actually, I want more than just being a mother. Right, I want more, and we saw this on Love and Marriage. If you remember Love and Marriage, Huntsville, with, is it Tish and her partner? Is it Marta or Marceau? Marceau, whatever his name is. Anyway, and you saw it with her where she said she wanted to be part of the business. She wanted to be a realtor, and he denied it. Right, he said, no, I don't want you to be a realtor anymore. You said you want to be a mother. And the reality of the situation is that in relationships, people's roles change. They are more expansive than what we think they are. You are not just a mother. You're not just a wife. You are you. And so what does you want? And so sometimes we get so wrapped up in the role of, yes, okay, mother and wife, even a husband, and father, and we get stuck. When men get stuck in the role of husband and father, and they're not able to focus on their career and their dreams, they get frustrated. Right? This is also another thing. Men too get frustrated too. So everybody needs to be able to have room in this relationship to be able to expand and find out who they are beyond that current role. Number 7, graduating the relationship is also another thing that, we know that she's mentioned this before, but I found out where, this is important, and I want to go to it because I think it really highlights where we're coming from. So let's have this.
Anything left that you just couldn't move, like there was just nothing left to give.
Every part of you was like physically, mentally, emotionally.
Everything was just like done. And I had to choose. It was like I was at the crossroads, and it was like, either you choose to stay down or you choose to take the uncomfortable route.
Yeah. But that's so brave to do that, to take the uncomfortable route. It can take.
And essentially, that's a graduation from the relationship, right? She took the uncomfortable road. But the uncomfortable road wasn't meant for her. Maybe you're married, you're not in a relationship. So the uncomfortable road wasn't meant for you to take a different path. The uncomfortable road was to actually say, let's grow together. But maybe she did try to do that. Maybe when she took on her healing and she looked back and tried to say, Cory, will you grow with me? Maybe she felt like he wasn't ready to grow. Maybe she felt like, you know what, he liked where he was and didn't want to change. Maybe. I'm not saying that's definite. But I can see how that can cause a friction in the relationship and cause us to break up, because if he's unwilling to grow, she's going to outgrow him completely. And that can be very difficult. How to kind of remember, her role has been one of minimalized proportion. She's always been minimalized in terms of, from her perspective, about her needs and her wants. That's not Cory's fault. That's not only his fault. That's her also not being able to speak out what she actually needs. And so what ends up happening is you felt so minimalized. Now, as you always hear her say, I feel free, I feel free, I feel free. What does that mean? Not that he was controlling her, but rather the fact that she felt constrained by the fact that she was not being authentically her. Ooh. See, when you're not authentically you, you're going to be constrained because that's not really you, right? You're consistently playing a role to get the plaudits. You're acting. And eventually you're going to want to take the mask off and take the clothes off, right? And then we're going to see who you really are. And anxious people do that all the time. They stay in a place where they're trying, they stay in a place where they're consistently trying to always prove that they're worthy of love. And that becomes its own problem. And that's where we see this situation between herself and Cory happening as well. And my last point, I don't necessarily have a clip for this, but my last point of this as to why I believe the relationship kind of crumble the way it is I always say this again: whenever relationships crumble, it's because whispers have become loud sounds. I've made a pact with myself that anybody who I marry, I'm not going to let your whispers become loud sounds. And I think the last few months has been really interesting for me, and just trying, when you start to acknowledge your own needs and wants, you actually start to realize that other people have needs and wants. But the problem was, as a dismissive person, is that I saw I didn't have needs and wants, or I wasn't attuned and aware of my own needs and wants. So I couldn't really identify and engage with your own needs and wants as well. But the reality of the situation is this: my needs and wants, your needs and wants. And with Tia, she had needs and wants. And more than likely, maybe she didn't say it in the way she needed to. Maybe it wasn't maybe she didn't communicate it very well, because again, anxious people, very indirect. And unfortunately, those whispers became loud sounds, right? And this is a problem when it comes to divorces or relationship breakups. They're usually because loud sounds have become whispers. And sometimes those whispers are said out loud, but sometimes those whispers are in somebody's head and they're not being said to the other party and giving them no chance to fix what's actually happening. So when I look at this scenario, I go, oh, okay. The anxious side of her had needs, but it was whispering. And then one day it became very loud. And as she said, she felt depleted, tired, and she felt she was down, and she had to choose another road. And unfortunately, that road led her to divorce. So those are my 8 reasons of why I think this came to a divorce. I will do a separate video on anxious people as well. I think you guys would love that as well. I wanted to say this again. This is not a guarantee. We don't know what the relationship, how it broke up, or why it did the way it did. We can only guess in some sense. But I thought that was another aspect of looking at the relationship once more again. It takes 2 to tango. So if you're in a relationship like this yourself, look first for you and what you're doing and what you're not doing, and make sure you do so. If you're not communicating, communicate in that relationship. The person needs to know what your communication, what's going on in your mind and your heart. Again, once more, we're at the end of the month. We've got one on the 2nd of August. We've got the join the 100 offline relationship conversation where we'll be in groups, prizes we won, quizzes, and just do some, some Zoom conversations offline where you guys can have networking, chill talks, and food. I mean, I'm not providing the food, but you can eat the food at your house. You know what I'm saying to you? I really want to have some fun with you guys. So sign up. The link is in the description box down below. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked, stay loaded. We'll see you again very, very soon. Much love.